What is up, everybody? RLTK Podcast. Jordan here, kicking it with my boy Thomas today. It's just me and Thomas. Maybe somebody else might, jump in mid-pod, but we'll see. The crew is busy today. We wanted to get something out though, so we thought, man, let's chop it up a little bit. Bro, how you doing today, bro?
Man, I'm pretty good considering all that's going on in the world, man, but I'm great.
we just gonna jump right in, huh? That's what we doing?
My bad.
No,
I'm sorry,
good, bro.
I'm sorry you want me to be churchy. I'm blessed and highly favored, bro.
No, this is the Real Talk Podcast, dog. No. That's not what we doing today. No, we getting into it, dog. We getting into it. Straight up. No, that's good. You know what, bro? I think as I think about it, I mean, obviously there's so much happening in our world right now. There's all the stuff that's happening in Iran that just started. There's last month, obviously, is Black History Month. And obviously there's still a ton of tension in our country around race and all those different types of things. Man, I guess what I would love to do, and here's why this is an interesting moment for me, even as I'm sitting on this podcast and it's just me and you. Because obviously, as you know, I'm from the UK, right? I'm not American. So my perspective on what's happening in the country is maybe a little bit different than somebody else who comes from like the US and was raised in it. And once again, that's not me saying that racism doesn't exist in the UK, because it most certainly does. I think it just looks different. And so from your perspective, man, like what's going on in your context right now? What are the things that young people are saying? Like, how are you kind of ministering to them in the midst of like the mess and the chaos that's happening in our world right now?
Yeah, Jordan, I think, and just going back to the question of what our young people are saying, I think it's a lot for them to digest, but a lot of our young people are just, and I would say, a lot of them are experiencing like racism full front in some of their schools. Some of them some of the ones that I interact with attend private schools or attend some more diverse schools. I have some college students that are at some PWIs where they attend because they excelled academically. So some of their experiences can be a little bit frustrating, and some of the interactions that they have with other students. And so I think it's partly them kind of navigating their own personal journeys and experiences amongst their social circles. And so I think all of that on top of digesting all the things that are going on in the world and them still just trying to be kids. I think we probably get a little bit more angst than they do. I think they are aware of what's going on, but it's just like that one thing on top of everything else. I have a couple of high school students right now that are just stressed out enough about the amount of work that they have in school.
Yeah.
The amount of work they have in school, some of them who have siblings and having to navigate helping to be like that third parent raising their siblings. And then it's the conflict, then it's the racism, then it's everything that's going on in the world. And so for them, I think I would say they do a better job of finding escape than we do, because it's easier for them. They can just pick up their Nintendo Switch and start, Roblox or whatever it is, or jump on TikTok and, think about creating content.
Hey, wait, was that an iPhone?
Never.
Oh, okay. I thought that was an iPhone for a second. I was like, praise the Lord. No, keep going.
No. You about to take this conversation off the rails. We're about to have conflict on the pod. No. But yeah, so I think they do a better job of finding escape because they have like technology, and we do too. But I think where we are, we get consumed and everything because it touches us in a different way, a little bit more personally. In different aspects when it comes to like our church institutions, places of employment, how this affects how we raise our families and things of that nature. We experience it on a very macro level and they're experiencing it on a micro level, but we're all like dealing with the pain in different aspects.
Yeah, that's good, bro. That's good. What would you say to the youth worker who perhaps isn't paying attention to this, but should be? What is some way that they could perhaps get their finger on the pulse concerning this conversation? Maybe they're just assuming everything's good. Like they haven't seen anything in the context of their youth ministry, right? They haven't seen anything when they're at the local high school. They haven't seen anything in the neighborhood. And so they're kind of just like, I get that that's happening, there, but that's not really happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I would even include in what you just asking the ones that don't want to see it. Because there's some that are in that mind frame, I don't want to turn on the news. Because there's a sense of accountability when I turn on the news and start paying attention to what's going on. And when I start thinking about the oppression and the suppression of other young people that I don't necessarily have a physical or virtual reach to. And so when I'm kind of in my bubble or in this kind of isolated space, and maybe some of those populations don't affect me personally, then sometimes we put ourselves in like this isolated place where I don't want to be consumed with negativity. I don't want to watch the news. Like it's always depressing. But there's a sense of awareness that we have to have, because we should be paying attention to what's going on, because there's only but so many degrees of separation that, these issues may come to our doorstep in some way. And if we are a youth worker that is saying that we're called to all young people,
It's good.
Then we have to think about ministry and empathy and compassion for all young people, just not the young people in my youth group. Or it's also being aware and staying aware, because I need to ask my young people how they're feeling about what's going on. And how do I hold space? How do I create space? Even if I don't have the right words and right answers to give them as they're processing, but how do I hold space for them so that they can even teach me something that I may not be aware of? And when I'm thinking about this, Jordan, I'm thinking about one of the things that broke my heart in the past week or so is when this war started, is hearing our responsibility as a country that we bombed a school in Iran or Iran, and 100 plus, I don't know what the exact number is, but 100 plus young girls and teachers lost their lives. That broke my heart. And there's persons that have their different feelings on the political spectrum of why they support the war, why they don't support the war. But before I even think about all of that, I'm thinking about the empathy of care of the hundreds and thousands of people who are losing their lives over what? And that what can be debated and dissected in so many different ways. I can give you about 75 reasons right now why it grieves my heart that we're in this space, and just based on research and things that I've done. But it grieves when I hear stories like that, innocent lives that don't get to see their dreams come true, whatever those dreams were. And then we're finding even theological ways to like support, like, this is great. Like, I mean, I think I heard something in the news about, and I don't know the truth or not, but, there are watchdogs that are reporting that there's army leaders who are saying, this is our responsibility for the second coming of Jesus and coming back. It's like even the theological malpractice that has taken place of like supporting, and which a lot of this white Christian nationalism views, they take on this support of pro-life in our country, in the US, but it's like it's pro-life when it comes to babies, but it's not pro-life when it comes to anything else. It's pro-life when it comes to the topic of abortions, but it's not pro-life when it comes to, but we celebrate the bloodshed of other people so that we can exert our Christian dominance. And I say Christian in quotation marks. I don't think that's the theology of Jesus, of our behavior and our actions. But I could go on and on about that, man. And I'm irritated because, like, even in this Christian view that we try to portray this country, is that, to me, is distorted. And I'll even say that I've had to deconstruct my theology, Jordan, through the years, because I was a part of this, like, our country is the best. We're the greatest. We're the dominant. And, everything's better here. But often, depending on where your theology lands, like, we've always made ourselves to be the heroes because we never want to be the villains. And even when we are the villains, we still always shape our stories to be the heroes.
Yep.
And if Jesus were to come back and sit right next to us and be chatting with us on this podcast right now, would he view and look at us as the villains, or would he look at us as the heroes? And I don't think the latter.
Yeah. No, that's good, bro. There's just so much that I'm thinking about as you're talking. I think it's kind of interesting, right? As I was just thinking about the curriculum that we wrote this year. You wrote that series, Ism, Racism, Sexism, Classism, Unity. And then I wrote that Build Different series, which talks about being made in the image of God and, like, taking care of our bodies, all those different types of things. And so, I mean, we started that in our youth group this week. And as I'm thinking about this conversation, I'm thinking about the fact that our young people are watching us, our young people are watching us celebrate people dying, or our young people are watching our responses to the things that are happening around us. And would they think that our responses are Christian, or are our responses Christian? You know what I mean? I think those are valuable questions that we have to ask and answer. And then I think also, like, this generation is just different, right? Like, they care about different things. They care about the other. They care about diversity. They care about blah, 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 so on and so forth. And even though there are still certain practices among them that go against that philosophy or ideology or perspective, whatever you want to call it, those are still values, generally speaking, that they hold to. And so, man, as I look around myself, all I continue to see is, like, this constant devaluing of what it means to be human everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Social media, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You don't make enough money. You know what I'm saying? All those different types of things. And then, like, the color of your skin, and then, like, you're a girl or you're a boy, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't look masculine enough. You don't look feminine enough, or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. Then, hey, if you're from this country, you're this. And if you're from that country, you're that. It's just like, bro, it's so overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming for me, I can't imagine what it feels like for students. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I'm a grown man, you see what I'm saying? Wife, kids, mortgage, you know what I'm saying? The whole nine. And, like, I get on my social media feed for 5 minutes and I got to turn it off. Yeah, bro. Yeah. It's such a strange time right now. And I think, man, we got to, as youth leaders, man, just hold the line. Like, the only thing I can think of is just continuing to call people back to being image bearers and what that actually means. And the reality that all of us are image bearers, right? Like, everybody. Like, the people I like, the people I don't like. And then to your point, like, when you talk about this idea, we constantly make ourselves the hero. I couldn't agree more. But, like, I think the scripture constantly makes us the villain. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think when you read the parables, you should be looking at it through the lens of, man, what are the warnings that Jesus has given me concerning my own faith and my own fate, right? Like, I remember I got to preach on Sunday a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to the congregation. I'm like, yo, when Jesus talks about the rich man, he's talking about us. Like, globally, we're rich. Like, we always think, well, we're poor compared to the ultra wealthy. Like, no, dog, we got bread over here. Like, if you live in the United States and you poor, compared to the rest of the world, you rich. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, so I think you got to take that into consideration. And I get there's nuances to it. And so I'm thinking about that. But then I'm also thinking about the Pharisees. And it's like, Jesus spends his time walking through the Gospels, eating with tax collectors, eating with sinners, prostitutes, the whole nine. And what is he saying? He's saying these are the people that are going to sit at the table in my new kingdom, the kingdom that's coming. And you religious folk who are too worried about who's in and who's out and telling people who can come in and who can't come in to the places of worship, right? You're the people who are actually going to miss what I'm doing in the first place. You've missed me. You haven't understood who I am. You haven't understood who I've come for. You haven't understood what I'm doing. And so if that's true, and if that's who Jesus is, then I think that has to have real implications for like how we do youth ministry, but then also how we teach our youth what it means to follow Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the key, how we teach our youth to follow Jesus, and not just we come to youth group and we pray and we worship and we play games. That's a piece of it. Like you want community, you want fellowship, you want to teach, but I think we have to be in a space where we have to make this gospel real for our young people. And even as we think about, just research organizations like Barna and Springtide and others who are really looking to these reports of, thousands and millions of young people leaving the faith. This is part of the reason, because we're not modeling the behavior that Jesus would want us to model. And so that's where you have young people, whether they're on the margins or they're not on the margins, they're looking at, Christianity very differently. And going back to your point, they're finding community and their information. And we talked a little bit about this a little while ago about misinformation, but they're looking to TikTok for it. They're looking to, Instagram for it. They're looking to Twitch for it. They're looking to AI for it. They're looking at AI to figure out how to solve their problems, and, even from a social perspective. And so where systems and institutions and people, they feel like are failing them, they're feeling like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure this out on my own. And I think many of them have very authentic Christian foundations still within them. But that's when you have these young people that say, hey, I'm spiritual but not religious. I believe in God, but I don't go to church. And our response to that has been wrong, in my opinion, Jordan. We have been trying to convince them they need to come back into the church. Like, don't leave the church. Don't leave the church. But we've been trying to convince them, don't leave the building. And we haven't had very deep theological conversations of how we live out the gospel and sit in a place where we can agree and disagree and have theological discourse, because it's like, I need you to believe this so you can stay here. But is it because we got an end goal, because we're trying to meet a quota, because we want the biggest church, because we want the biggest youth ministry? Like, what is it? Or is it about the life,
That's good.
And so I think we've just been approaching this wrong. And I think young people just don't have the tolerance and the patience. And as we're thinking about, and take a breath after this, but as we're thinking about like how we engage the generations like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and even like the latter part of millennial, like they just move different than we used to.
Yep.
And so like the Gen Xers, the boomers, the builders, and even like older millennials, like, we got like 3, 4, 5 year strategic plans to how to figure out how we're going to grow, and we meeting. But the reality is these young people want to see action right now. Like, I have young adults right now in my ministry that do some amazing work. And sometimes they want to move, or they feel the unction to move quicker than what sometimes our processes are. And I can't get mad at them for that. Like, and there's sometimes a tension of how, this is the way the church works, and this is the way it operates, and these are the politics and the boundaries. And they like, Rev, we about to do this next week. Like, we need to get this done now. And so I can't get mad at that, because this is the way they think they operate. And they build movements. They build change in a way that we need to learn from, and we need to embrace and understand. We just don't need them just to keep our churches alive, but we need each other so that we can build movements to sustain.
Yeah. And ultimately, like to your point, like if we got young people going out there and doing things for the sake of the kingdom, they're building the kingdom, right?
Yep.
If they're out
Yep.
there serving the poor, dealing with issues of injustice in the context of the community, preaching the gospel, like if they're doing the things that Jesus has called them to do, then we should celebrate that, come alongside that, champion that, invest in that. I think to your point though, like even as we have this conversation, right? Like I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, when you have these types of conversations publicly, or when you have these types of conversations, even in the context of your ministry, you're by necessity of doing that, making it smaller. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
like it makes me think about when Jesus always got a large crowd in front of him, like he gave him that work. You know what I'm saying? And so, but then the deep work that he did was in smaller groups. And so I often think that like part of the challenge for the youth leader is, okay, I'm trying to grow this ministry or build this ministry. I'm trying to, maybe grow it enough to justify the church paying me, or to justify me being able to raise funds for it in the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. But like the reality is also when you start to get into these real nitty gritty hard conversations, like oftentimes that can repel a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? That can prevent you from having a large group of people showing up. You know what I'm saying? If you're really getting into it, because people are going to get offended. People are going to get upset. Parents aren't going to like things that you have to say. Parents are going to be like, why are you having that conversation? I was having a conversation with a youth worker last week who, was talking about dating and sex. Parent got mad at him. Like, my kid don't need to hear about that. It's like, your kid's 13, my guy. Statistically, your kid's already been exposed to explicit content. What are you talking about? And so I think just like the complexity of all the systems that are at play that make people respond in different ways, right? Because we might see a thing and we might know a thing's wrong and we might know a thing needs to be addressed, but we also like understand the implications of addressing the thing. And it might cost us something that we don't want it to cost us, right? And so we don't address it. But we see that throughout the Gospels too. You know what I'm saying? Like opportunities for people to address things and then they don't. And yeah, that's not the way God would want us to respond. God, like Jesus would want us to address the issue regardless of what it cost us. Love your enemies. I love the way my friend says it, friend Ray Robles. He says, bro, that's stupid advice. Love your enemies is dumb advice if Jesus is not the Christ. Because my enemy could kill me. But if the worst thing that can happen to me is now the best thing that can happen to me, then I guess loving my enemy isn't so bad. You get what I'm saying? And so, man, it's just like my brain is like spider webbing right now in terms of, man, the complexities of trying to have these conversations, solve these problems, talk about racism, talk about sexism, talk about classism, all the things that we're like attempting to talk about, have these types of conversations, sit in the nuances, give space for people from different perspectives to share what they think and feel, whether we agree or disagree. And then having those people come together to love each other in the context of community. And hopefully the Spirit does the work that the Spirit does, which is transforming people and bringing them together so that they see things differently than the way that they see them currently.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that, something that we're working on at my church right now, we're actually in a partnership with another organization. In the coming weeks, in the next month, we'll be taking a huge leap, and organization has created curriculum around teaching 10 or 14-year-olds around white Christian nationalism. And so that's to your point, depending on your perspective, it could be a leap, and it's not the draw. It's not the, and I also got a fellowship a couple weeks before that where we're going to take the kids to the indoor trampoline park. So it's like, yeah, let's take them to this safe, fun event to the trampoline park. But this is a risk, because there will be probably a more smaller group in that session where we talk about this difficult subject, but do it in a way that's relatable to them, but teaching them like what it is, how it's affecting, Black and brown people, how it's affecting our day-to-day lives and things of that nature, and what to equip their friends, their peers about in this space. And so, and every parent is not going to subscribe to it. Every student may not even subscribe to it based on like your upbringing, spiritual Christian beliefs. And but we got to take that leap into sharing information and sharing what's right and sharing what it is to really live the gospel out. And even if I get 3 to 5 kids in that session, I've done my job. And at some point, these families or students or parents who may or may not agree, may or may not attend, this conversation may come up in a couple of years, and they may say, you know what, Reverend Brackeen, I should have had my kid attend that session. Or can we run that back? Like, can we have a conversation about it? Because that just wasn't top of mind. And so I think we just have to put the avenues out there, even when it comes to controversial stuff, even when, talk about the youth worker you were engaging with, talking about dating and sex and things of that nature. Like you said, they're exposed to it in the music. They're listening to it every day. They're consuming it through social media and other forms of other media. But we have to have those conversations now. We'll do our best to ask for permission and, let you know what we're going to talk about, things of that nature. But we can't sugarcoat, because if we give them space to learn about it in other places, it could be much more damaging to them. And so I got to take those risks, have these hard conversations, even if it's not popular. And my job, to be honest, Jordan, I used to look at youth ministry as I got to get the most youth in the room, because that's what I'll say. I don't even know if this is a word or term, I'm gonna make it up, but that's what colonial youth ministry used to be. Hey, let's get the most kids in the room and let's go call each other up and say, I got 75 kids last week. I got 125. We got 200. They came down, gave their lives to Christ, and oh, thank you, Jesus. And that's, to me, that's like, you know what? I'm not going to say it's colonial youth ministry. I'm going to take a term that my pastor uses and attach it to youth ministry, but it's capitalist youth ministry. We're looking at the numbers and how big it looks, what it looks like that makes us feel good when we do a thing, but it's not. There's not a sexiness to just working with a group of 3 to 5 kids and teaching them how to live the gospel right.
Yeah, I think I'm convinced that based on who this generation is, I think youth groups are going to get smaller. I don't think they're going to get bigger. It's really interesting because I see, like, we have kids come to our youth group. Our youth group's, not big. And we have students show up and they're like, yo, I've been to the youth group that's 200 or whatever, but I don't want to go because I have social anxiety. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. A couple years ago, you know what I'm saying? If there's the big thing in town, that's where everybody wants to go. You know what I'm saying? Which is really interesting to think about. And so it seems like kids are becoming less attracted to that. I mean, obviously there are still large youth groups that are around, and I'm not necessarily even trying to knock large youth groups and say there aren't large youth groups that are doing good work. I'm sure there are. But I think, once again, to your point, if we make it about that, right, about the numbers and about how many kids we can get to show up, and not about what does it actually look like to disciple them, what does it actually look like to help them grow in their faith and own it, so that when they leave our youth ministries, they are formed in their faith and their faith can actually stand up against the challenges they're going to experience as they transition into adulthood. Then, like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the point? You know what I mean? And I think, like, all these isms are some of those issues of our day. And if we're not stepping into those and giving youth context for those conversations and helping them understand them from a gospel-centered perspective, and so that they can step into those conversations with friends, with people that they don't consider friends, so that they can be confident in who God's called them to be confident in how they've been made, how they've been created. If we're not doing that, then I'm not sure what we're doing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I want to add to that, Jordan, I think, which is critical in this season, and I'm not going to say, my church is working on this, and I'm not going to say that we perfected it. I think we're building. But I think it's just not the discipling of our young people, but it's the discipling of our parents too. And
Yeah.
it's the discipling of our parents and also the resourcing of our parents. Because just like you said, I think you think youth groups going to get smaller. I think hot take. I think the role of youth pastor is going to become antiquated because of the model that we built it on. And
Mm.
I think when you base it on a model that, you know, this one personality is responsible for hundreds of lives, then I think there's limitations to that. And then I think people feel like sometimes they feel like it's all about them too, depending on how you show up in that role. Like it's all about me and this is my kids, this is my youth group, and they love it when I speak. They love it when I call. They love it when I show up. And but how do we create better partnerships with parents? Because there's some parents that just, hey, Reverend Brackeen, I don't know how to deal with this, or I don't know how to talk to them about this, but what does it look like for me to partner with parents and
Mm-hmm.
equip them with resources so that they can have conversations with in the home? And so we're starting to think about things like that. I just came out of the meeting yesterday with an organization that wants to have conversations about the influences of AI with young people, but they want to start the conversation with parents, which I think is most important because I can't talk about it to young people, but they still want to explore AI. But it's important I have the conversation with parents, whether it's AI, whether it's sex, whether it's politics, whether it's Christian practices, whatever it is. I need to figure out how do we have these conversations with parents so that they can feel like we're raising as a community, as a village together, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, bro, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think parents is the thing in youth ministry, the code that is yet to be have been cracked. I think, like, I don't know anybody who's cracked it. I think there are people who are making efforts for sure. I think there are people who are building really cool things to that end, but in terms of that code actually being cracked,
Yeah,
and because
yeah,
I think it also then it seeps into like what are we doing as a congregation? You know what I'm saying? Now
yeah,
you're talking at a congregational level, not just a youth ministry level, which now becomes way more complex. You know what I'm saying? Because guess
yeah,
what? I'm not the lead pastor. You know what I'm saying? I don't call the shots. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the elder board. I'm not the deacon board. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what denomination you in or denomination you're not in. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, man, that is youth ministry is a tough gig, bro. I mean, I'm convinced it's one of the toughest gigs in the context of the local church for that reason. Like what you're expected to do, what you actually have access to, the pitfalls, all the different expectations that are coming from different directions. Yeah, it's a challenging one. So shout out to all the youth pastors out there who are continuing to stay in the trenches and keep doing this thing for the Lord and keep
yeah.
reaching
I've
these
been trying to
kids.
quit. I've been trying to quit youth ministry for 20 plus years, bro, and I keep coming back because I like to torture.
Hey, bro, youth pastor, Cowboys fan. You know what I'm saying? Like
I
we
got all
just like
types of
torture, bro.
targets on my back, and an Android user.
Yeah.
Wait, using Cowboys fan, youth
Yeah,
pastor.
bro. You definitely like torture, bro. Using that Android, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Oh,
You
that's
know,
good. Wait, ain't you a
there's
Bulls
another
fan too?
conversation. Yeah, I'm a Bulls fan, which is more
Yeah.
torture. But I mean, but there's a whole nother conversation about the Samsung 26 Ultra that's coming out that Apple wants to, consult Samsung on how to have a good camera. But that's a whole nother conversation.
What? I don't know what you're talking about right now, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, but I feel like, hey, that's some misinformation. Am I talking to AI right now? Or is this Thomas? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's some misinformation right now, bro. Like,
We're gonna fact check. We'll do our research.
yeah, bro. Let me pull up chat real quick. Hey, is Thomas lying to me about this Samsung camera? Nah, bro, I appreciate you chopping it up a little bit today, man. And I know this is like one of those sensitive, difficult conversations, but I'm grateful that we were able to kind of engage it a little bit. And to the audience, as we always say, it's the beginning of the conversation, not the end. Questions, comments, concerns. You know where to find us. Man, we want to chop it up about hard things. We want to have difficult conversations. And ultimately, we want to lead our young people to faithfully follow the Lord. So, and hopefully that's the same game that you're playing too. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.